an accessible version of the national plan as the government's commitment of making sure that adults with intellectual disabilities are also included and engaged. The plan aims to ensure the well-being of adults with intellectual disabilities through coordinated actions. It is estimated that there are 500 Bermudians with an intellectual disability, with over 4 can have a wide range of needs due to cognitive challenges, but also have many strengths. And as our children with intellectual disabilities grow and age out of existing services, we must appropriately plan for and support their ability to thrive as adults in the community. Bermuda has had a better evolving service and support system for children with intellectual disabilities than that offered for adults, which is the reason why the national plan focuses on adults for the immediate future. However, there is an element in the national plan that includes children age 14 years and older to ensure transitions to adults as children's age are planned, available, and beneficial. The plan is founded on the principles of rights, independence, choice, and inclusion to achieve its purpose and has 5 priority areas and goals. These are quality supports and services to ensure high-quality, person-centered supports for adults with disabilities and their families are readily available. 2, training and education for support workers to ensure informal carers and staff who support adults with disabilities and their families are well trained and can access specialist advice easily. 3, policy, regulation, and accountability to ensure a legislative framework, policies, and governance arrangements are in place to guarantee the protection of adults with intellectual disabilities. Monitor the plan's effectiveness and provide system monitoring and oversight. 4, financing to ensure services and public funds are well managed, including that families have access to financial help when required. Health insurance benefits are used effectively to fund care, and incentives are in place to help keep loved ones at home. And 5, advocacy and communication to ensure family carers and adults with intellectual disabilities are empowered to influence how services are developed and managed to ensure accountability of services to adults with intellectual disabilities. Let me emphasize that the heart of this plan and its priorities are with adults with intellectual disabilities and their families. This means we cannot simply acknowledge and do for, but we must really listen and do with. Accordingly, the development of the accessible version of the plan is to enact the principles of inclusion, choice, independence, and rights, which is based upon. Providing accessible information is fundamental to inclusion, and we hope this standard for consultation, publication, and implementation will be adopted by other organizations and across the government. The next step for the plan is implementation. The Ministry of Social Development and Seniors is establishing a cross-ministry and sector governance steering committee structure, which I will co-lead along with Mrs. Marissa Rogers, Clinical Director of the Intellectual Disabilities Program at the Mid-Atlantic Wellness Institute. The steering committee will oversee annual action plans to ensure accountable and coordinated activities by working groups that will keep persons with intellectual disabilities and their families at the center. This includes having representation and input from adults with intellectual disabilities and their families at all levels of the implementation and governance process. This is not to say work is not already underway. The plan, through its development, has already helped to facilitate coordinated action, such as the re-engagement of the transition team and day program, strategic development, and planning. It is also important to note that this plan cannot exist in isolation. It is intricately tied into other key areas, such as long-term care, health, and financial support systems. As a result, implementation will consider broader system development to ensure inclusive and coordinated actions. Let me state that the Mid-Atlantic Wellness Institute, in partnership with the Ministry of Social Development and Seniors, spearheaded the creation of the national plan. But it was only with the collaborative professional and technical support of the planning committee that helped the plan. It has now come to fruition. And so I want to thank members of the planning committee for their dedication and commitment to developing the plan. Here with me today are Ms. Marissa Rogers, Mid-Atlantic Wellness Institute, Ms. Kiona Balbuda, Aging and Disability Services, Ms. Sarah DeLacio, Aging and Disability Services, Ms. Jennifer Howard, K. Margaret Carter Center, Ms. Tina Nash, WinReach, Ms. Margaret Phillips, Dame Marjorie Bean, Hope Academy, Ms. Tinee Furbert, Tomorrow's Voices, and parents. Those committee members who could not join us today, Ms. Veronica Baptista, former administrator of the K. Margaret Carter Center, Dr. Alec Bush, clinical psychologist, Mid-Atlantic Wellness Institute, Intellectual Disability Services, Ms. Julie Lynn, school social worker at Hope Academy, Ms. Tony Bridgewater, community advocate, and Mr. Jose Lopez, parent and community advocate. We are truly grateful for the time and energy the commitment has invested in. My thanks to all of our community stakeholders who participated in the consultation process that was held to gather input and feedback. Finally, March is recognized as Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Month, but it is important that we maintain this focus throughout the year as we have much work ahead to create a more inclusive community. This plan is a key means to help achieve such. The National Plan for Adults with Intellectual Disabilities and Their Families is another step towards advancing Bermuda to better align with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It ensures the full and equal enjoyment of all rights and fundamental freedoms and promotes respect for the inherent dignity of persons with disabilities. I encourage our community to become familiar with the plan, which can be found on our ministry homepage on www.gov.bm. I also invite the community to engage with initiatives developed as the plan is implemented starting this year. Thank you.
Morning, Melissa.
Good morning.
Gareth Finnegan from the Law.
Hi, Gareth.
You mentioned that people with intellectual disabilities have cognitive challenges. And also a wide range of needs. What sort of challenges and what sort of needs?
So when we talk about intellectual disabilities, we can describe persons according to a certain IQ level. And so, of course, testing and assessment would be done to determine that. But there are many behaviors that we could see as far as cognition is concerned. So there is obviously the intellectual quotient, but there's also things around safety, decision-making, following directions, being able to really make decisions on their own, and capacity, being able to have mental capacity to make decisions on their own.
And you talk about this plan will provide quality support and services. What sort of services are we talking about in practical terms?
So if you examine someone from birth, right, right up until an adult, there are support services that should be in place. When we talk about quality, usually services are given by persons who work with persons with intellectual disabilities. And so wanting people to have a knowledge base, people who are well trained, qualified to give well-informed information so that people can make decisions. And then also it's, also being increasing our resource base here in Bermuda. We do have much work to do as it relates to increasing our resources here for persons with disabilities in general. But some of the areas that do come up quite frequently are around the areas of employment and job coaching support. Also the area of respite care, so that carers, when they need the opportunity to have someone to assist with care, there is the availability of a safe, loving home or program that someone can go to, so that there is relief. I'm sure anyone can imagine having to assist anyone with a disability. It does take a village, it does take a support system.
So we have a whole range of organisations there that are providing support. Is the purpose of this plan really to sort of bring everybody together, sort of under one umbrella, and
Sure.
make sure there's more sort of coordination and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the plan does speak of a coordinated effort. It also sets direction for where we want to go for our intellectual disability population, and how we as a community should think about building upon our resources to help this population in Bermuda.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay,
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
thank you.
I'm gonna take that first shot.